Happy Friday morning, everyone. Happy Independence Day weekend. I'm not sure how many people will be on here today. You guys are probably all barbecuing, boating, and why not? Long weekend. It is the summertime. These are the days that we basically look for all year long. But thought we'd come here today, just quickly chime in, talk about a few things, including month from today, July 5th is today, August 5th, Green Thumb Industries reports earnings. Earnings season exactly 1 month away. So we're going to dive into that. We'll also take a quick review at how these stocks performed this week with all the chaos that went on regarding the judicial system. Courts, lawsuits being thrown out as well. Stuff that we had on Wednesday with both Eric Berlin and Darren Weiss. That podcast interview was fire. So we look at how LPs versus MSOs performed for the week. And then finally, we bring in Guap for a declaration of independence here on a Friday morning. So with that, big into our podcast here today, we're going to bring in our lead financial writer and analyst, Bill McNarland, on a happy Friday morning. Good to see you. How are things?
Yeah, great to be there. Things are great. Looking forward to the weekend.
Yes, looking forward to a great Small Cap Sunday podcast as well. I know we got 5 new companies. So if anyone that's watching this live stream now has got a chance to do so yet, make sure Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, the Small Cap Sunday podcast that we do. We always have our cannabis pick of the week out of the 5 companies, but also 4 small cap stocks that a lot of people are unaware of. So I know you've got 4 more up your pipeline, I should say, this Sunday night. So interested and anxious to see what you've got unveiled for that coming up.
Yeah, I look forward to it. It's a great show.
Yeah, so I want to dive in here today because, as I said off the top, it's July 5th, 2024. Half the year's gone. Where does time go? And as I said, a month from today, Green Thumb Industries will report their latest earnings, which kicks off earnings season. As well, 2 days later, we also have Air Wellness, Trulieve, and Verano Holdings. So we're really going to get off to a strong start. So as we inch closer, I want to basically highlight a lot of the work that we're doing here at TDR and really a lot of the stuff that you're doing preparing for that. So what do you think, investors, because we're now entering kind of this new stage of the industry and possible rescheduling, but what do you think investors should really prepare for as we inch closer to our latest earnings season in comparison to ones in the past?
So we've been doing a lot of past research just on how the year is going and the different trends. So we so far launched a formal research on 9 different cannabis or 8 cannabis MSOs plus New Lake Capital. And we went in deep to do some work there. And then secondly, we also been trying to do some educational work as well. We've been putting out some blogs every day, trying to help investors to determine what they should be looking at and how to understand different points and how the companies are ranking in key areas.
Well, you highlighted some of the names. Right now, I know we initiated coverage on that. You said New Lake Capital, full transparency. They are a client of ours, along with Trulieve, Green Thumb, MariMed, also a client of ours, Verano, Terracin, and I know this week you launched Glasshouse, and upcoming next week will be Jushi Holdings. So some really strong companies. So walk us through, I think, as you're preparing a lot of these research reports, like some of the formats that you're using. Like, are you using a lot of comparables? And if so, like, there's crazy valuations with one company compared to another. So how are you basically structuring all that?
What we wanted to do, we were starting this project fresh. So this was great. It wasn't like we said, let's just do research on one company. We decided to research the whole industry. And so what we did to start, we said, let's do some comparable analysis. And so what we did is we looked at the MSOS ETF and we saw there was 21 holdings. So we said, let's put these into benchmarks. And we can look at all the key areas that we think are important for the future of cannabis industry for these companies. And then we compared how the companies performed individually to a benchmark. But we wanted it also to be good, be educational. So we wanted to explain the process for retail investors, but we wanted also for institutions to be valuable. So we're actually making estimates on the future revenues and EBITDA of the companies as well, and submitting those to all the major research networks.
So when we look at comparables, like, are you looking at companies that are valued between, let's say, for example, over, let's say, $500 million, and then companies that are below and valued at under $500 million? How's that work?
That's what we did. We split the stack into 2 because generally the smaller companies are growing quicker and they're a little bit earlier stage. And the larger ones of market cap are a little bit more established. So we wanted to compare more apples to apples. And so we split the groups into 2 groups and then compare them just to their relative benchmark.
All right, so gross margin, SG&A, CapEx, and 280E. Be interesting to see if rescheduling does take place. Hopefully at some point. I know a lot of people thought that was up in the air, but I think we got a lot of clarification from Eric Berlin from Denton's on Wednesday as to how that's very much still in play. So it's not a matter of if, but when. So getting back to these reports, how often are these research reports being updated?
Right now, we're in a period that we're launching a new company each week, and then we're going to get to earnings seasons, and then we're going to focus more on to updates. And then once we're done updates, we'll start adding more coverage as well. But we'll have something out every week for investors to look at.
What are you seeing as far as trends in the industry? Like, I think you had mentioned before, like you believe a lot of companies are going from growth companies to now mature growth. And we really started seeing that about 6 months ago. Can you maybe give us an examples on why that is?
Yeah. So, how I would describe a company going from growth stage to growth mature is they actually have cash in the bank or cash flow at the end of an earnings period. And so that means that they've paid all of their interest costs, they've paid their capital expenditures, everything. And in the last 6 months, we've seen this trend happen with the cannabis companies that they are no longer negative cash flow, needing to raise capital,
Right.
needing to raise debt. They actually have extra cash that they can do things like pay down debt or invest in capital expenditures with their own money, or even buy back shares. So that's a trend that we've seen over the last 6 months. And that's a real encouraging trend because it de-risks the companies.
What do you think happens to this space if rescheduling does happen and you factor in all these numbers and like just some of the stuff that trends that you just outlined here? But if 280E were to go away, let's say later this year, uh, clearly that obviously sets a lot of companies up to thrive. And I know a lot of companies are saying the right things where it's like rescheduling or not, we're basically building a business that can thrive even at the current tax rate. But we all know that if indeed that does happen, where do you see the landscape of this industry in the next 6 months if that were to go away?
I think this is something that's not talked about a lot. What's going to happen if 280 changes? A lot of the companies are going to have a lot higher net income
Right.
after taxes are paid. And I think what happens right now is there's a lot of investors that do screens and say, I'm only looking for companies with positive net income. And so they don't look at the cannabis companies. So all of a sudden, when that changes, and taxes are way less, a lot of the companies are going to have very nice looking net incomes. And that's going to go on the screens of different types of investors. And I believe also some institutions as well. So then that way, there could be potentially more demand for these types of companies, and their
Yeah.
multiples could go up substantially from there.
Yeah, all things, but as we know, we obviously have to wait and see how this all transpires. But as I said earlier, that we initiated coverage on a number of companies, including Glasshouse Brands this week. So if you haven't got a chance to do so, click on the link. Actually, that's the QR codes that are right here in the lower right-hand corner of the template here of our podcast as well. It's in the comments section below, or you can log on to thedalesreport.com. But subscribe to our baked-in newsletter to get access to these research reports that Bill has put together. You want to maybe tease us a little bit on what stood out to you as far as Glasshouse Brands? One or two things?
Glasshouse has been a favorite to many investors. They've been growing very quickly, and their stock has also went up very quickly. It's almost performed the MSO ETF almost twice in the last year. So we saw a lot of good progress with their developments and manufacturing in California. So it's a very interesting company. But then we also looked at different things about valuations and as compared to their peers. And so that's something we'll talk about specifically in the small cap show about what we've seen in the comparables and what our thoughts are about the timing of a purchase.
That stock has absolutely ripped when I look at the charts over the past 18 months, but generating a lot of interest, especially amongst retail investors. Okay, so I guess last thing I'll ask, I know there's a lot of helpful information that you shared here this morning, but if there's one or two most important things that you should take away and be watching heading into this earnings season, what are they?
I want two things. Top line, I want to see the revenue growth year over year, not
Okay.
quarter to quarter because there's seasonality. I want to see it year over year. Not all companies put that in their press release. So you might have to calculate that out yourself. But that's what I'd want to see, that there's a nice growing trend still. That's top line. Bottom line, I would like to look at the EBITDA margin, because that tells you the story. That tells you if your gross profit is improving, your SG&A, that's on the bottom line. And I want to see that margin improving year over year as well. That statistic often is not in the press releases, but that's something we'll put the effort forth when we do an editorial on earnings. We'll highlight that for you to show you how the companies are improving over the course of a year to year on the bottom line as well.
6 months into this industry, since you've joined our team, if you had to put into one word the cannabis space, what would it be?
I'd say the one thing that baffles me is I know there was a lot of initial excitement in cannabis, and
Yeah.
I saw that from a distance, but these were just ideas that people had, speculations, and some people put together strategic plans. But now you actually have companies that are turning into have excess cash, deciding what to do, and the valuations are a fraction.
Yeah.
That's beyond my pay grade to try to figure out the disconnect. But this is a point of time that I have an interest coming from more the traditional side and the institutional side, where you start to look at these companies that are producing cash flows. This is starting to become very intriguing to me. And I think a lot of other people like me that are more traditional investors, if something like 280E changes and the net incomes are increasing, we're really going to pay attention to that and start considering the space.
Well, working for institutions and being an analyst, because I know you got 20 plus years of experience from that, I think that is pretty much the take on a lot of these institutions that, yes, they can't come in and buy these stocks right now in the US because it's still federally illegal. But saying that, if you were a betting person, obviously these conversations amongst these institutions, that if it's something like a 280E goes away, those are conversations that they're having right now. Do you not think?
For sure. And I think the 280E is just one thing. Can you buy a stock? Yes or no. But do you want to? And when you start seeing the change of net incomes
Yes.
because of everything, that answers the second question that the investors will be interested in paying attention.
All makes sense. I got to ask, there was a lot of people that didn't follow the cannabis space back 7, 8 years ago when there was these crazy valuations in Canada. And, if you put $100,000 in 8 weeks later, that 100 grand at one time could be 500-600 grand. Looking back at that stage, how crazy was that? And what kind of an effect has it had, you think, on investors' mindset fast forward in 6-7 years later? Because that wasn't investing, that was gambling.
I've only seen it. I've seen it one time before that was very similar, and was technology in 1999.
Yes.
You had the pet.com get a huge valuation and whatever. And then you got the
Nortel.
NASDAQ went up to 5,000, and then it came down. And remember when the NASDAQ fell back? I remember even in 2010, people saying to me, I'm really interested in technology. And other people would kind of discredit it, say, oh, remember what happened in 99? It took a long time to fix itself. But when it fixed itself, we see where the NASDAQ is now.
Yeah, I
And
know.
these are legitimate companies. They're doing well. They have cash flow, the big names. So it just takes some time to heal from that hangover. And then when the rip comes, it comes very hard. And we saw that in technology.
Did you see that as well with a lot of, if you could remember back then, the mindset of, say, a retail investor back in the early 2000s when they got a taste of it in the late 90s, and now the NASDAQ has grown. It's grown to the proper exchange with tech companies. Did you see a lot of impatience amongst retail investors during the early 2000s before the NASDAQ was really established?
Absolutely. People, it was very, very similar. And it was the same. A lot of people were disheartened. They didn't understand after things, through the 2000s were improving so much in the company's earnings and such. But then when it happened really quickly. And so it was a lot of time waiting to repair itself. And then it just took off. And so I think the story will be similar here.
So long story short, let's not quit being so hard on ourselves. This has happened before. This isn't like the first time this is happening. So,
You know what we saw in Small Cap Sunday 2 weeks ago, where we looked at the history of ethanol speculation. In the year 2006, everyone thought the U.S. was going to become energy dependent off corn. And then all of a sudden, we saw what happened
yeah,
to those stocks.
yeah.
And then they had the same, hangover, and then it came back. So it happens repeatedly in the capital markets. And I think this is just a similar story. It is a little bit different, but I think what's going to happen is going to be very similar to the past.
So this is no exception. This has happened before.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Well, I'll let you run, but we look forward to seeing you Sunday night, 8 o'clock, Small Cap Sunday podcast with their 5 latest companies. Good seeing you. And let's keep in touch and then enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. What'd you guys all think? Did you like that? Make sure to log on. As I said before, the QR code is right here and in the comment section. If you haven't gotten a chance to do so yet, subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. You subscribe, I'm going to give away a TDR hoodie here this weekend just to say happy 4th of July. How's that sound? So let us know if you like this research report that Bill's doing. We're initiating coverage in Glasshouse Brands as well as Juicy upcoming on Monday. So that wraps up our first segment. Mr. Anthony Varell is up in Vancouver, Canada this weekend. But as usual, every Friday, cue the music, Arns. It's time for Dan, the chart man from the Chart Guys. How do you like that? You weren't waiting 45 minutes this week. How's that
Beautiful.
sound?
It's awesome. Prompt. I love it.
How you doing, my friend? How was July 4th yesterday?
It was great. Did a little sauna, cold plunge action. Saw some live music. Yeah, a lot of fun.
What are the health benefits of that? I hear some people say tremendous health benefits, and then other people are saying, oh, these are just, it's a big trend right now. And, there's a lot of inaccuracy as far as the actual health benefits involved. Have you done much research pertaining to it?
I'm sure it's a bit of both. I have, but
sure.
I'm no scientist, and I've listened to my body a lot in my life, and it likes it. So I'm going to keep doing it. I don't do it excessively, but I like mixing it in every now and again.
Who's the best doctor out there? Probably yourself, right? Something feels good, keep on doing it, right?
Yeah.
All right, it's Friday, and we're going to look at some charts. This has been one heck of a week, and talk about volatility and chaos amongst, just the drama that was generated in this industry. Where is rescheduling going to happen? Not going to happen? I think it had a little bit of, not a huge effect, but yes, it did have an effect on the markets. But I did see a lot of LPs that were in the green while MSOs were in the red. But let's begin with the big one, obviously, in the U.S. cannabis landscape, ETF AdvisorShares, MSOS. What did we see over the past 5 days?
So right now it's essentially a battle as to whether or not it's a weekly bear flag. We knew the weekly lower high was the most likely result of this bounce. It was a fairly weak bounce overall, considering where we came from. And we do have a double bottom at the low, so the bulls aren't just rolling over. There is some defense going on. And I like the 4-hour time frame for clarity to just say that if the bulls are going to defend this level, which is currently a double bottom, this needs to be a 4-hour inverse head and shoulders. So I need to see the bulls get back over 752 and 758, those necklines of the pattern, if we're going to see a successful defense this go around.
Still a lot of unknowns, you would say, pretty much, right?
Yeah, I mean, we know the burden's on bulls because we've been pulling back so significantly over the last 6 weeks, but it's possible they can pull it off. So, I'm skeptical. I make the bulls prove it to me if they're going to show us something, but right now, it's a short-term battle. The bulls' backs are against the wall, but they haven't given up at the moment.
Okay, good to know. All right, let's move down to Trulieve. What are we seeing?
So similar, but one difference is we're not as close to breaking the low. So if we were doing the same thing as MSOS right now, we'd be trading down at 840 or something like that. So That's a good sign. But we have to see this base hold. We got a support zone right now, $9. You can see we held 901, 904. Today we held 910. So a little bit of defense at that 9 psychological level. And if we're going to say, hey, bulls are proving something, we need to confirm the daily uptrend with a break of 1080. I still have some partial positions in Trulieve and Green Thumb. Sold a little bit into the strength, and that allowed me to be comfortable. But letting it play out just because, we're not dropping to lower lows and it's not stopping me out yet. So giving bulls a chance, even though it looks a little bleak, but still possible.
A break at 1080, you said, correct?
Yeah, 1080 would be pretty meaningful. I mean, that would get us to the highest level we've seen in 5+ weeks, and that would give us a nice amount of cushion above the current low of 826 support.
Okay, good to know. All right, next up, I think it's GTI we have, correct?
Yeah, so it's more like MSOS in the sense that it's testing its low of consolidation, 1066. Again, it's still holding it, but there was a good bit of relative weakness to start this week. And again, just marking out key support and resistance for me, it's 1066 support and 1291 resistance. The bulls want to do everything they can to try and get back in the midway point of this range. But as far as new information that's going to help me determine probabilities towards the end of the summer, I don't get new information unless one of these levels breaks. Otherwise, we're just chopping around sideways.
Yeah, and a lot of that new information, I don't know what it is, maybe Pennsylvania, but there's just a lot of stuff that's up in the air right now that if you're dependent on Washington, obviously that summer recess is coming up real short. And as far as rescheduling, that's not going to happen the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens over the next 8 weeks. As much as I think a telling point too is that banks will be reporting earnings that upcoming week as well. So that's going to be telling for the overall economy too, right?
Yeah, I definitely always watch earnings season very closely. I think just observing, Twitter and things like that, it looks to me like retail's the biggest thing they're watching. Is Biden going to drop out? And if he does, who's going to replace him? And what does that do to the cannabis story? Does it perhaps put it a little bit more to the forefront if it's someone that's a little bit more vocal about it or not? And so I think that's in terms of where retail's attention is over the next, 1 to 2 months. I think that's something they're watching closely.
They're going to have to come out with something, whether A, yes, indeed he's running, or B, he's been replaced. And they got to do that soon. But yeah, be interesting to see what happens, obviously, with the markets once that announcement is made. Okay, after GTI, let's now move to Curaleaf. What are we seeing?
So Curaleaf has been relatively weaker, and that's just because we do keep hitting fresh lows on this pullback. The two that we just looked at, Trulieve and Green Thumb, have not done so yet. So just your simple downtrend, anything under 427, just a lower high. Only support nearby is 357. And we can see that, just recently we dropped down to the lowest level of the year. We hit the lows of 2024. And so I have to call it like it is and say that Curaleaf is underperforming comparative to other MSOs and just dropping harder, essentially.
That's interesting. Jason Wolfie, good to see you, my friend. Democrats suck for pot stocks. Retail is clueless. Tell me how you feel, my friend. We got one more. I think was it YOLO that we have up? The
CGC.
CGC, my apologies. Yeah, the whole point. Like I looked at the last 5-day trends. So looks like some of the LPs are somewhat holding in comparison to some of the MSOs, but what are we seeing?
I mean, there was a nice little short pop on Wednesday, little mini short squeeze. And I just say that because it's all bears. And then just, instantly out of nowhere, you get a 9.5% bounce in, less than 90 minutes. And whenever that's happening on a daily chart that is this week, it's just some quick forced short squeeze, but quick and small is the key word because you look at this daily chart. And again, I like to keep things simple. And if this red line is resistance, that's daily EMA 12, then bulls have not proven a thing. And it's just reject, reject, reject. So bulls are attempting to build a base of support. And we weren't going to look at Tilray, but just want to highlight that, in terms of the support level to be watching, look how many times it's bounced off of 160 to 165. We held back here, held again, held two more times there, held again, and now we've held again. And so talk about, a key level. This is bulls doing everything they can to defend this level. It's still successfully being defended. But again, the bulls' backs are against the wall. This is the only thing that they can hold their hat on and say, well, we are still holding this level. So it is a nice low risk spot. We've got traders with the chart guys that are entering in the 160s, sell a little bit in the 170s, stick your stop under 160. It's a nice low risk attempt at seeing if it can hold again. And so that's something that I am going to be watching over the next couple of weeks.
A lot of the same narrative for a lot of these plays right now, but I think the key word right now, as far as the next, 6 to 8 weeks regarding this space, is just a lot of uncertainty on news, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're all doing roughly the same thing. It's just to varying degrees. Curaleaf is weaker than Green Thumb and Trulieve. We can say that. And so, yeah, it's just observing the similarities and the differences. But overall, the theme is they're doing the same thing.
Yeah. All right, let's now switch to crypto and Bitcoin. I know it's been kind of all bumpy the last little bit. I know Germany has been unloading on some of their coins, but at the same time, too, prices that definitely like. Are you surprised at where this has gone when you look at where it was, let's say 6-8 weeks ago?
Yeah, just because sentiment is so bullish everywhere else in the market, as far as, as we speak today, you've got Amazon, Google, Apple, and Microsoft all hitting all-time highs today with the NASDAQ. And it's just, we're still in melt-up euphoria in the broader market. And to see crypto, I mean, right now, out of anything that I watch in the market, this drop over the last 3-4 days affirms that crypto is clearly the weakest thing. And, you look bigger picture, we had a very clear, this is the weekly chart that's up. You had a very clear double top. So resistance was clear. We did just break short-term support. So that has me go out to the monthly chart. And, if we say big picture, we got to keep in mind that we ran hundreds of %. And obviously consolidation happens as a part of that. And so for me, monthly chart, no major red flags. It's not what the bulls want. It's a lot of sideways and now, another leg down. But for me, again, I use these EMA 12 so often. My simple statement is if monthly EMA 12 is support, then there's no major red flags long term. So the bulls really want to defend this low $50,000 level, and they got a ton of work to do. Next time we bounce, we've got a ton of space for a daily lower high. We have to confirm an uptrend. It takes a while if anything's going to shift here, but it's definitely a glaring, this is one of the weakest things in the market right now, and that has to change. And big picture, that low $50,000 level is important to me.
Okay, so when we look at some of the stuff we do in our small cap podcast is either on sale or a trap in this situation. So is this, in a lot of ways, like you said, is this a good entry point, or you're still looking at that 50,000 threshold and kind of like walking before you run?
So a lot of it, does someone already have exposure and are they looking to add to exposure? I wouldn't be going aggressive here, but if I was nicely all cash because I took some off because of the double top at 72,000, then definitely this is the kind of fear where I would be looking to reload. Same thing as, what I did in cannabis, sell some into euphoria. And then, we were dropping real hard. I was not high conviction that we were going to put in a short-term bottom, but I could recognize fear. And if I sold some in euphoria, I've got no problem making an attempt at that reload during fear. And so, daily oversold conditions and certainly fear out there. And so, it just depends on, is someone looking to be aggressive or conservative? Does someone already have a position, or are they cash looking to initiate a position? But I've always suggest, bigger picture, looking to buy fear if the longer term uptrends are still intact, and they are still intact for Bitcoin at this point.
It's great feedback. Sell in euphoria, which a lot of retail investors will say you're crazy. It's going to the moon, but
just trim, just sell some, and then you got cash to rebuy fear. There's always going to be a period of fear, even if we do keep going. It's just these cycles. It's just the pendulum of emotions in markets.
100%. Well, listen, thanks for checking in. I know it's a holiday weekend. What do you got planned for the rest of the weekend? Just chilling?
Yeah, I got some music I'll go see. Other than that, yard work, harvesting potatoes and onions and garlic. And
nice.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
All right, my friend. Well, happy Independence Day, and we'll see you next Friday.
All right, have a good one.
All right, thanks, Dan. Interesting information, to say the least. Sell a little bit during euphoria, something that we all need to learn in this retail space. All right, it's Friday. It's that great time of the week. Arns, cue the music. It's time for Mic Drops with our good friend Guap. How are you, my friend?
My fellow Americans.
How are you? How are you, President?
Good
President Guap.
Yeah, good to see you all. Fuck it. I'm running for president. I've had enough of this.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Is your handicap
that's really why I came on the show today.
Is your handicap better than 6 or 8, though?
Yeah, my golf game is irrelevant to my ability to run the country and complete a sentence or thought.
Oh, I'm tired of this morning. What'd you think of that? Before you get into this, what'd you think of that conversation I had with Eric Berlin and Darren Weiss the other day? I thought that was interesting.
That was the interview I think everyone needed to hear. When complex legal arguments are presented, we must consider the source. Not all legal opinions are created equal. So yeah, if you went to an online law school and you haven't taken the bar yet and you write an op-ed versus, say, 2 admin law experts named Matt Zorn and Shane Pennington, detailing their legal arguments, citing cases with years of experience, you may want to take that in consideration. So I'm glad that sort of common sense has prevailed here. We're starting to get more solid legal opinions. And so that Wednesday,
armchair critics in the first 4 to 8 hours, wasn't there?
What's that?
A lot of armchair critics in the first 4 to 8 hours, I think.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. So my tweet was, let's see what the lawyers say. And
well, here's my point.
Yeah.
Why are people coming on this podcast? what is the point? Is we want to give you educational information from all different fronts of this industry. And by doing that, we want to bring on the most respected people in the space and the information that they have to share. So when these, whatever, announcements, whatever that goes on, there's anti-legalization groups everywhere. Just log on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. Give you direction. Just please, people, do not jump to conclusions. Just walk before you run. And if there's information that we don't have, guess what? Like I always say, we'll go out and find it for you. All because it's about you. So make sure you stay connected. Smash that like button and subscribe.
Take this viral. All right. So just a relevant passage as we wait for Biden to give his interview at 9 o'clock tonight on ABC. I'm going to be watching that one for sure, because that could go a couple different ways as well. So a passage, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinion of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. So why are we separating ourselves from the British Empire? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, government are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. That's
interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we kind of forget about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
You have your safety.
But so is government is in place to serve us, and we can take you out. I think the founding fathers would be rolling in their graves right now if they saw these two candidates. I would vote for Ben Franklin in a heartbeat.
I actually think in a lot of ways too, though. I think this has happened before in history, where, and we all know what the end result was in a lot of these situations was war, which, let's face it, like what's the greatest generation? Like people always say, it's like the Great World War II, and what was basically built. It's one of the best wars that ever fought, even though you don't want to go to a war. And we're 100 years later, and I know there's a lot of speculation about going down that road, but to your point, safety and happiness. I know happiness isn't all that there, because
does either candidate make you feel safe or happy that they're taking over? So I just have a little fact checking thing. There's a meme that goes around about the age of the founding fathers, and it shows, Alexander Hamilton was 21 in 1776, James Madison 25, Jefferson 33, John Adams 40, George Washington 44. I fact checked that one. All those ages are correct. Well, we have to keep in mind who actually signed the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson was 33, Adams was 40, Sam Adams 53, Ben Franklin was 70. Yes, generally people didn't live as long. That's those ages are less than our current candidates. But George Washington, he didn't even sign the Declaration of Independence. So that meme is a little deceptive. I enjoyed fact checking that one. I pray for this country. I'm one of those. I fly in America every single day, and I really just want what's best for the people.
Starmaker writes, "Where's Anthony? Followed by a yawn. Good to fucking see you too on a Friday morning." He's actually in Vancouver. I think he's at a wedding, so he'll be back here Monday. What else have we got? Christopher Bradley, good to see you, my friend. A lot of comments, to say the least. But I think for the most part, quiet little Friday morning podcast. I was undecided whether or not I want to do this morning, but I think it's just good to get out there. But we'll be back at it. Actually, Anthony's away both Monday and Wednesday of next week, but I'll make sure that we got some guests on with Dan Aarons on Monday. We're going to talk about Delaware too. Mark Landers. Is it Landers? Is it Landers or Sanders?
Landers.
Yes, he actually wrote me this morning asking about Delaware. So we're going to bring that up. I want to make sure all the details that basically you were speculating on are accurate, and make sure that, like I said, if nothing is done, does it come into law on July the 10th? So I just want to reconfirm if that is indeed the case. So we're going to reach out to a couple of government officials just to make sure that's accurate, but that would be very, very helping, especially for a company like the Cannabis. So I'll reach out to them as well for some dialogue. What do you got planned for the rest of the weekend?
I'm going to be taking it easy. I've got some travel plans starting. I'm going to be up in New Hampshire for the second half of July. And so I'm taking it easy this weekend. Start the packing process.
There you go. Lucifer, good to see you. Appreciate it, my friend. Glad you like the emails as well in the morning. Like I said, people, we got some good coverage coming up. Jushi, initiating coverage them on early next week as well. We've got Glasshouse Brands already underway. We actually went live with that yesterday. And to our knowledge, it's actually the first time in a long time that Glasshouse has gotten information regarding research on Bloomberg, who we work with when it comes to research regarding that company, in front of a lot of institutions' eyes. So anyways, we're doing some good work and doing a lot of the things that maybe the others are not, but that's okay. Onwards and upwards. So if you've gotten a chance, make sure to click on the QR code right here in the template as well in the comment section to subscribe to our baked in newsletter. What do you got there? What's the t-shirt?
It's my July 4th.
Oh, I like that.
America shirt. Jets, George Washington, Ben Franklin.
By the way, I was on this morning talking to, that guy that comes on the Air Force, I should say Navy pilot, Wiz Buckley.
Yes.
So he lives down in Florida, and all he does basically is the odd time he has to do different, flybys, for getting hired. So he's been in Aspen, Colorado over the last couple of weeks. And all he did yesterday was basically fly in jets across Aspen, putting on a show, speaking with the mayor. Then after he was done, they took him up to a ranch. And whose ranch was it? Kevin Costner's. Got to hang out with Kevin on July 4th. Does it get any more American than that?
It's tough to beat. I mean, he wasn't riding. He was just a jet. He wasn't on an American Eagle or anything. So,
yeah. Anyways, good guy. Yeah. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. That'll wrap it up.
All right.
Friday morning. All right, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Meantime, everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Independence Day weekend. And we'll see you back here 4 o'clock on Monday for the latest TDR Trade to Black podcast. Take care, everyone.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.